All right, so hey, welcome. Let's get into some details about our good old friend photosynthesis. Of course, what plants and all the producers do um, to make the food that we then eat to make our ATP. All right, so it all starts somewhere. It starts with our producers. So, overview of photosynthesis coming at you. And that's what we'll work on this week, the rest of the week, anyways. So, number one is a true or false question. Grasshoppers be creeping. True. All right, well, let's begin number two with let's define photosynthesis, right? So process that green things do, plants. So they convert sun energy into food energy in the form of these carbohydrates, all right? Sugar and specifically. So we'll talk about that. So it takes these raw materials, water, carbon dioxide, we'll talk about how that happens a little bit, and makes them into sugar. The byproduct is oxygen gas, which is kicks out of the leaves or whatever. Which then, thank you, I'm going to go ahead and use that for to breathe with. So, anyways, let's talk about photosynthesis and break it down into a couple ways to visualize it, two different forms. So coming up. Okay, so let's number three here talk about how to think about photosynthesis as an equation. So we have reactants on the left, we have products on the right. Two things react to make something else, to make the product. All right, so we'll look at the reactants and products separately in a minute. First, let's talk about overall equation, and we have a couple ways to visualize this. We have a balanced equation, so chemistry style, we can count number of carbons, number of oxygens, number of hydrogens. They're the same on the left as they are on the right. So we have 6 CO2s, we have 6 H2Os, right? You combine those using sunlight's energy to make a glucose, which is called C6H12O6, and 6 oxygen molecules. All right. So that's the balanced chemical equation way. Here's the way I want you to remember it. So you don't have to go balanced chemical equation. Carbon dioxide plus water makes, by using sunlight energy, makes sugar and oxygen. Okay. That's the way to visualize and think about the process. So we'll break that down into reactants and products in a minute, but we've got two ways to look at it there. Okay, so we can handle number 4 and 5. You could probably just figure this out already. I want to remind you we have reactants on the left side of the equation, products on the right. So the reactants of photosynthesis, just to clarify, carbon dioxide and water, and the products are sugar and oxygen. Let me quickly address this. Where does the water come from in plants? Well, picturing all like the trees around you, it's absorbed by the roots, right? And then transported throughout the tree. Take Bio 2 if you want to know more about that. Where does the carbon dioxide get into a plant? How does it get there? Okay, again, take Bio 2 for more detail, but it goes into the leaves, so these tiny little holes in the leaves, these little pores that you don't even see. They're microscopic. So it just kind of floats on in because there's CO2, carbon dioxide, in the atmosphere all around us. As I speak, as you breathe, we're putting it into the atmosphere, and plants are harvesting that. It just floats its way on in, right? And so it combines that with water that it gets from roots. I'm oversimplifying, but that's fine. Combines them using sunlight energy to make sugar. And then the byproduct, the excess, the extra that the plants don't even care about is oxygen, which we go ahead and breathe on in. And we'll look at the important relationship later between photosynthesis and this other thing called respiration, right? So that handles 4 and 5 right there. Good. Okay, well, we won't talk in great detail about exactly how photosynthesis works, but we should mention you can't just magically take CO2s and waters and stick them together. You need some things to help you do that. And that's what our good friend chlorophyll does. All right, so you, besides, of course, our reactants, you need the energy from sunlight, from light. Plus, you also need the thing to harvest that energy, which is chlorophyll. All right, so those are number 6. The other things we need. So I want to talk to you a little bit about chlorophyll now. All right, so chlorophyll is something called a photosynthetic pigment. Absorbs the energy of light. There are lots of other photosynthetic pigments, like you can see on the graphic here. There's a technique called chromatography that you can do to help see what's going on. But we've got several different kinds of chlorophyll, xanthophylls, carotenoids, carotene, phycobilins, all kinds of different photosynthetic pigments. But chlorophyll, more like borophyll, that's the big boy. All right, so there are 2 major types, A and B. All right, so what I want you to know for number 7 is chlorophyll is the photosynthetic pigment that is primarily responsible for absorbing light, all right, for absorbing sunlight. If you absorb that sunlight energy, you can then use it later to go ahead and combine carbon dioxides and water so you can make your sugar, all right? So there you go. That's what chlorophyll does. So here's where chlorophyll works the best. So if we break down the visible spectrum of light, visible to our eyeballs, of course, birds can see in the ultraviolet and insects and stuff, so they look way cooler to each other than they do to us, which is somehow unfathomable. Anyways, chlorophylls absorb lots of light in the blue and violet end of the spectrum, and they absorb lots of light in the red end of the spectrum. Where are they very bad at absorbing sunlight energy? In the middle, where you got green. So if you're not absorbing green wavelengths of light, what are you doing? You're reflecting them. And so that's why plants look green. All right, they're bad at absorbing, because of chlorophyll, is bad at absorbing green wavelengths of light, so it reflects it back. And that's what we see with our eyes as it bounces off a leaf, because it's not used for photosynthesis. So on number 8, when it says explain this diagram, I'm talking about chlorophyll being good at absorbing reds and purples and blues, being bad at absorbing greens, which is why plants look green, you dingus. All right, and maybe this helps you answer number 8, but I'll also yell at you about number 9 real quick. What is the purpose of photosynthesis? Like, what is the whole reason plants are doing photosynthesis? Is it to make oxygen for us? No. Oxygen is a byproduct. It's the leftovers. The whole purpose of doing photosynthesis is so plants can make sugar. That sugar is used as food energy, right? So that they can make ATP that we talked about a couple days ago. Yes? Okay. Purpose of photosynthesis is so the plant can make themselves food. Again, that's why we call them autotrophs. Oh, it's all coming together. I love it. Let's call it there. And I hope you have had an enjoyable experience. Thank you.